Good afternoon, and I'm calling the May 19th, 2022 meeting of the APCD to order. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Director Williams. Director Lavanino.
Here.
Director Sierra.
Here.
Director Clark. Director Perotti. Director Julian.
Here.
Director Osborne. Director Infante.
Here.
Director Hart.
Here.
Director Nelson.
Here.
Director Waterfield. Director Rouse.
Here.
And Chair Hartman.
Here.
Yes.
Director Williams is participating. He's under attendees.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Clerk, would you read in, or let us know about the housekeeping information for participants on Zoom today?
Certainly. Members of the public who wish to address the board today on any matter listed on the agenda during the public comment period may do so in person at the Board of Supervisors hearing room in Santa Barbara, or the Board of Supervisors hearing room Santa Maria, or remotely via Zoom. To provide public comment in person, please deliver a speaker slip to the board clerk in Santa Barbara, or if participating in Santa Maria, please deliver a speaker slip to the designated APCD staff person on location. If participating via desktop, laptops, or smartphone, click on the raised hand button at the bottom of the screen. Or if participating via dial-in telephone, press star 9. Thank you.
Right. Please stand and join me in the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our first item of business is the state of emergency declaration. And Madam Clerk, would you read that into the record, please?
Certainly. Item C, reconsider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. 1, reconsider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. 2, consider whether state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. 3, find that the legislative body has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency and that state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. And 4, direct staff to continue to notice and hold hearings as remote hearings consistent with Government Code Section 54953E3.
Ms. Richardson, as our counsel, would you open our discussion on this?
Madam Chair and Directors, I have nothing new to add since the last time. The board has the discretion to continue to make this finding or elect to come fully in person.
Okay, and before we come to the board, is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
Chair Hartman, we did not receive any public comment.
So may I have a motion that we have considered the circumstances and would like to continue to meet remotely?
Motion, Julian.
May I have a second?
Second, Sierra.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Director Williams? Director Williams, to unmute on phone, press star 6.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Sierra?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Here.
Director Clark, we're voting on the reconsideration of the COVID-19 state of emergency circumstances.
Oops. Aye.
Thank you. Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Infante?
Aye.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Rouse?
Aye.
And Chair Hartman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
So the next item of business is our closed session. Would the clerk please read that item into the record?
Item D, closed session. D1, conference with legal counsel Anticipated litigation, paragraph 4 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9, deciding whether to initiate civil litigation, one case.
And Madam Clerk, will you please direct those who are participating on Zoom how to participate?
Yes, before that, we do have to call for public comment on closed session.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on our closed item?
We did not receive any public
Thank
comments.
you, and thanks for the reminder.
And then at this moment, all board members participating via Zoom, please log off of the open session Zoom meeting and log into closed session. Once closed session concludes, please log back into the open session meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now adjourn to closed session.
I estimate about 15 to 20 minutes for closed session.
After closed session, we're reconvening the May 19th, 2022 meeting of the Air Pollution Control District. And Council Richardson, would you report out from closed session, please?
Good afternoon, Chair and Directors. In closed session, the board authorized County Council to initiate litigation in one matter against California asphalt production. The vote of the board was unanimous with all directors present. The action, the defendants, and the other particulars shall, once formally commenced, be disclosed to any person upon inquiry, unless to do so would jeopardize the agency's ability to effectuate service of process on one or more unserved parties, or that to do so would jeopardize its ability to conclude existing settlement negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is approving the minutes of our March 17th, 2022 regular meeting and the minutes of April 7th and April 21st, 2022 special meetings. Is there any discussion? Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Sierra?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Osborne?
Aye.
Director Infante?
Aye.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Waterfield? Director Waterfield? You're muted.
All right, I will abstain since I didn't attend the last meeting.
Thank you. Director Rouse?
Aye.
And Chair Hartman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And the next item is our administrative agenda. Do any board members have items you'd like to pull from the administrative agenda?
Not seeing anything on Zoom.
All right, we're not seeing anything. No lights up here. Madam Clerk, does any member of the public wish to pull any item?
Chair Hartman, we did not receive any public comments.
Okay. Could I get a motion and a second then to approve our administrative agenda?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, once again, please call the roll.
Director Williams?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Sierra?
Aye.
Director Clark? Director Clark? You're muted.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Osborne?
Aye.
Director Infante?
Aye.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Nelson? Director Waterfield?
Aye.
Director Rouse?
Aye.
And Chair Hartman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next is our director's report.
All right, good afternoon, thank you. I'll keep it brief today. I have one item I thought would be notable to bring to your attention. Providing an update on our agency's efforts to prepare for wildfire season. You may have seen a news release that was issued earlier this week from County Fire. As of Friday, May 20th, we are going to begin our high fire season. There will be a press conference tomorrow, which some of you will be participating in. I will be there as well to talk about the air quality information and ways of being prepared for smoke inundating our communities. We have learned a lot over the years about wildfire response, and since it's now happening nearly year-round, I feel like we've had the opportunity to become prepared as an agency to provide information and assist the general public so they can take steps to protect their health as well as their families. And it's not just wildfires that occur in our county that are a concern to us. As we saw last year, fires can happen far away, hundreds of miles away, and still impact our local environments. So every year we do as much as possible to prepare for smoke impacts during this season, and we want to make sure that our public information is ready to go. We have portable monitoring devices that we can quickly deploy in areas where there may not be a permanent PM monitor. We also work with county public health on our messaging. We have air quality alert templates in English and Spanish that are ready to be issued when and if it's necessary. We have a special wildfire splash page for our website that has all of the tools and resources immediate location once you go onto our homepage. We also have been doing a lot as it relates to creating clean air rooms. We have a number of infographics and do-it-yourself instructions so folks can know how to create space within their residence or even their work place of employment to create clean air environments. We're working currently to make some infographics multilingual in Spanish, English, and Mixteco as it relates to clean air rooms, and this will also help to build off of the pilot project that we did in Guadalupe, providing close to 800 air purifiers in that area. We've been working with public health and the school districts on an air quality activity chart. We had one that we issued a few years back, but we're updating those now and making sure that all superintendents throughout the county are aware of these resources so they know what to do and where to look for air quality information.
And if I might ask, an air quality activity chart means if the air is smoky, not to go outside or
Yeah,
have
it
physical
follows
education.
It follows the AQI chart. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It follows the AQI chart. So green is good, yellow is moderate, orange, and then so on. And each of those air quality conditions, there's recommendations on what to do, such as outdoor recess when the smoke might be thick is not recommended. Well, sports, for example, is another activity for schools that we make recommendations. And it's ultimately up to the school district themselves, but we try to provide guidance and it's in a user-friendly format. A lot of times when we're inundated with smoke, we put out air quality forecasts for the coming days, but it's really the current conditions that we want schools and parents to pay attention to. And we have that information available on our website, but we also have the EPA tool. It's called Fire and Smoke Map. It incorporates all of our permanent monitors, any that we might deploy, like an EBAM that could be deployed, as well as the low-cost sensors. So it's a one-stop shop, and you can get information that's updated very, very quickly. So that's a better tool to use. Last thing I wanted to share with you is CAPCOA, the Trade Association for Air Districts, the 35 air districts, recently issued a grant for applications. The application window closes on June 30th. I know the city of Santa Barbara is actually looking into applying for clean air room. The program is for clean air rooms, but it's for publicly accessible locations, such as libraries, community centers. So they're out now looking for applications. We're available to assist with those applications. So if anyone is interested, we tried to get the word out. We thought this would be a great opportunity to further reiterate the availability. It's a pilot project at the state level. Hopefully through CAPCOA's efforts, we can show it's valuable and we need more in the future. And that concludes my director's report.
Thank you. Any questions?
No hands up on Zoom.
Okay, to the business of the day. Item I1, Madam Clerk?
Chair Herman, we skipped over public comment period.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much for the reminder. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on matters not on today's agenda but within our jurisdiction?
Chair Herman, we did not receive any public comment.
Thank you. Glad we have that on the record. So now, going to I1.
Discussion item I1, fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget. Consider the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget as follows. 1, receive the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022-23. 2, hold a public hearing to accept comments and provide direction to staff regarding changes desired by the board. And 3, schedule a budget adoption hearing for June 16, 2022.
Ms. Arlen Janae.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Today is our first of 2 hearings on the Air District's proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23. We issued the draft budget on April 1st for public review and comment. It was posted to our website. Notification was also placed in the local newspaper. In addition, we sent notification to all of our permit holders, 748 permit holders throughout the region. On April 19th, we held a public workshop via Zoom to explain the budget, answer questions, and receive input. Since the public workshop in April, the document has been updated to add an additional $850,000 of grant funds that we recently were notified by the state that we received, and these are for small off-road equipment incentive programs. So we were happily able to update our budget for increased grant funding. To date, no public comments have been received on the budget. During today's hearing, if possible, we'd like to have all questions held to the end of the presentation. And Tina Aguilar, the Air District's manager of the Administrative Division, and I will be presenting. We have 13 slides total, and we think it will take us around 15 minutes, I'd say. Before we delve into the details of the proposed budget, I thought it would be helpful just to put a spotlight on some of our major accomplishments that we're able to complete this current fiscal year. As I mentioned earlier, the launch of our Clean Air Pilot Project was an extremely successful event up in Guadalupe, and we're hopeful that we can ultimately secure some more funds in the future to make that program go further locations in the county. We've been working in Santa Maria on moving our air monitoring station. This was the station that CARB elected to close. We wanted to maintain air quality monitoring station in Santa Maria. We were able to find a location and work through all the construction of that site and getting that station up and running. We're very close to switching the on button, so it's working effectively. It's just PG&E right now is who we're waiting for to turn that switch for us. In September, we were able to purchase an office building up in North County. We implemented a new diversity, equity, and inclusion committee within the agency that's focused on our internal operations as well as what we're working on for all of the communities that we serve. As far as performance numbers, and these numbers are included in the proposed budget, we were able to issue 689 permit actions. As you compare that to our 3-year average of 571, that was a pretty productive year for us. Inspections, we conducted 659 inspections, and we responded to 341 air quality complaints. And lastly, we were awarded $3.4 million, or we awarded $3.4 million in clean air grants. Those are grants that we actually get under contract in this one fiscal year. Each year, early in the calendar year, we start with the budget process by programming our revenues. Excuse me. After revenues are forecasted, expenditures, including salaries and benefits, are programmed to equal revenues, making it a balanced budget. In the current year, we made conservative estimates for our revenue sources, such as permits and registration fees. We also reduced our services and supplies to live within our means. This conservative approach is something that we also took today as we developed the proposed budget that's before you for fiscal year 22-23. Our total budget for this proposed fiscal year is $17.8 million. It's an increase of 23%, $3.3 million increase. It's primarily due to the result of additional pass-through grant funds and fixed assets. Over the $17.8 million total, of the $17.8 million total budget, 7.4 is earmarked for pass-through grants. These are funds that the state provides to the district that we award out for local emission reduction projects, such as our Carl Moyer program or our Farmer program or 617 Community Air Protection Program. So we work to get old dirty diesels out and replace with cleaner technologies. Other than the percentage for administrative fees that we need to manage these grant programs, the pass-through funds are outside of the district's purview to utilize for district operations. Pass-through funds represent 42% of the district's total budget. To best illustrate the budget that falls within the district's purview to allocate for our operations, we remove the pass-through funds for a total of over $10 million for our operating budget. Staffing numbers continue to be budgeted this year at 34 full-time equivalents. That's no change from the current fiscal year. By keeping staffing numbers at this level, the district is prepared to operate in an era of changing revenue and associated workload. My goal continues to be to build a balanced budget that avoids using strategic reserves for ongoing costs. On this slide, it lists the key factors that affect the total proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23 of $17 million. Grant funds, as I've mentioned earlier, about 42% of our total budget. Of the total grant funds included in this year's proposed budget, approximately 3/4 of those funds are new funds that were recently awarded by the state, and 1/4 is from prior year allocations for projects that have not yet been brought to completion, so we haven't paid those funds out yet. The district receives approximately $622,000 in fees to administer the grant projects and contracts. As part of the district's fee rule, Rule 210, annually the district updates our fee schedule to include the annual adjustments for CPI. The CPI for fiscal year 22-23 is 4%. 2 years ago, with the onset of COVID in fiscal year 2021, the district decided to forego the CPI fee increase of 3.3% in order to provide financial relief for local sources during a time of economic uncertainty. As we did last year, the district is proposing to capture the second half of the foregone CPI increase with a makeup CPI of 1.65% in fiscal year 22-23 for a total CPI increase of 5.65%. There is one large one-time expenditure included in this budget associated to the remodel of our North County office building that the district purchased in September 2021. At the end of the presentation, I have 2 slides to demonstrate the current building and then the plans moving forward. When complete, this space will house the district's North County staff, our fleet, conference space to hold workshops, and will offer a fully equipped monitoring and compliance lab. The renovation includes resiliency for the district's IT and air monitoring network, as well as sustainable building practices with the goal of being net zero energy efficient. I'll now turn it over to Tina so she can get into the numbers.
Okay. Good afternoon. As Aaron mentioned, the district's total budget is proposed to increase $3.3 million, or approximately 23% from the prior year. I'd like to focus this afternoon on our operating budget first, as this falls under the district's scope. The district's operating revenue decreased by only $1,300, or less than 1%, when looking at the big picture, which is really something when you take into consideration all the different factors that could be affecting revenue in today's day and age. Something to note, however, is the district's operating revenue would have had a decent decrease this year due to less oil and gas activity starting to materialize in our county. We have been anticipating this due to recent plug and abandonment work taking place. Just thought it was something noteworthy to disclose here. With that being said, the proposed CPI adjustment of 5.65% offsets that decrease. Overall, the district's revenue continues to remain stable next fiscal year. Use of operating fund balance is increasing by 30% from the prior year, or $550,000. Last year, the district had budgeted to use a portion of fund balance to purchase an office building. The district closed escrow on the office building in September 2021. With the anticipation of building renovations, $500,000 was allocated in the current fiscal year, 21-22. However, only approximately $200,000 is projected to be spent for building design and demolition by the end of June 22. The leftover renovation budget of $300,000 is being rolled over into this budget, along with another $1.3 million to fully renovate the space. Fund balance reserves are being proposed for this project instead of financing, with the idea that in future years, the district will replenish the monies to levels appropriate for the district's size. The district also anticipates to use $200,000 from the reevaluation fund balance next year. Historically, the cyclical nature of reevaluation fees has been a 3-year cycle. Typically, it's a 3-year cycle, a high, mid-high, and low budget year, with fiscal year 22-23 scheduled to be the low year of that cycle. Typically, to accommodate for the up and down revenue trends of this 3-year cycle, we deposit a portion of revenue into a reserve savings fund during the high years and withdraw during the low year. Lastly, some fund balance is scheduled for use for replacement of fixed assets in our compliance and planning divisions. I want to note the district has a healthy fund balance projected to be approximately $3.5 million or 48% of our operating budget. And of that, $1.5 million is set aside by your board as strategic reserve to be used if and when there's a fiscal emergency. This chart breaks down the district's operating revenue by category. Licenses and permits continues to be the largest chunk of the district's revenue at 32%, followed by federal, state, and other government revenue at approximately 29%. Grants and incentive funds makes up approximately 42% or $7.4 million of the district's total budget. You heard that right, $7.4 million. We get to the $7.4 million number by taking the total you see on this slide of $8 million and backing out the admin portion of the grants, which is $621,000. This next fiscal year is by far the largest total amount of grant funds ever received by the district in its 50-plus years. I like to think this is because we were ahead of the curve on some of the voluntary emission reduction programs that we started a few years ago, that being the wood smoke changeout as well as the landscaping equipment electrification fund, that it made us a slam dunk to receive these funds from the state. All of the grant programs you see on this slide are considered pass-through funds. It should be noted that the way the district refers to pass-through may not be what folks are used to hearing in the traditional sense, in that we receive the funds and then allocate the money to grantees while keeping a percentage for admin costs to run these programs. The overall grant revenue, when compared to the prior year, is increasing by about $2.4 million or 48%. This uptick is due to the state allocating more towards AB 617 Community Air Protection Program, Carl Moyer Program, Moyer State Reserve Funds, and Wood Smoke Reduction Program. Because of this increase in pass-through funds, the district is projecting a 122% increase in admin funds to run these programs, which equates to a total of $621,000. That $621,000 covers salaries for this grant cycle as well as the next fiscal year. The amount being saved for future grant administration is $336,473. I will say that while this increase is absolutely wonderful for next year, these grant allocations are not permanent, and therefore we can't rely on these monies every year. There's also $2.6 million included in fund balance uses due to the timing of the grant allocation process. It is common for residual funds to be carried into the next year's budget if some of the clean air projects aren't completed and paid out in the current fiscal year. So this slide has a few pictures of some of the grantees' new equipment they were able to purchase with the use of the grant pass-through funds. As a refresher, the Carl Moyer program can fund on-road heavy-duty and light-duty vehicles, off-road ag equipment, ag pumps, locomotives, marine vessels, lawn and garden equipment, and infrastructure. AB 617 Community Air Protection can fund the same projects just noted for Moyer, except that the project must be located in or serve a low-income community. Carl Moyer State Reserve is for the replacement of commercial lawn and garden equipment with zero emission equipment. AB 923 $2 DMV revenue can be used to fund numerous project types, but the district typically funds those that are eligible for Carl Moyer. Farmer can fund projects that include Carl Moyer eligible on-road heavy-duty trucks, off-road ag equipment, and ag pumps, as well as zero-emission utility terrain vehicles. And wood smoke is used to fund replacement of wood-burning fireplaces with natural gas-burning alternatives. Now to expenditures. The district's largest operating expenditure is our staff. Salaries and benefits is 60% of the total operating budget. Salaries and benefits decreased approximately 1% from the prior year, mainly due to the savings from employer retirement contributions. The district is seeing a reprieve from the continuous increases it has seen in retirement contributions over the last 5 years and is recognizing a decrease of approximately 8% or $150,000. Santa Barbara County Employee Retirement System, SB-SERS investments had a great year for returns, and because of this, the district's contribution rate and the district's unfunded liability have decreased. I really hope this trend will continue in the years to come. While on the subject of retirement contributions, I wanted to point out that of this $6 million salary and benefit expense, approximately $1.6 million, or 26.5%, can be attributed to retirement contributions. Services and supplies remain relatively consistent from the prior year. Administrative overhead costs are captured here. Total overhead S&S costs to support the district represents approximately 70% of the total S&S budget and includes utilities, rent, IT support, building maintenance costs, legal counsel fees, and the county's cost allocation fee, just to name a few. The district is seeing an uptick in expenditure costs for fleet maintenance and fuel. Utility expenditures are also increasing. Lastly, we anticipate more staff traveling to trainings in the upcoming year, so that line item saw an increase as well by 26%. As previously discussed, fixed assets increased from the prior year. A few things to note in this category are the purchase of 2 new plug-in hybrid or all-electric vehicles to replace aging ones in the district's fleet for the compliance division, as well as new air monitoring equipment for our monitoring stations. Here are the district's expenditures by program. This chart includes both operating and pass-through expenditures. The biggest piece, as you can see, is our grants program, which we've already talked about. Permitting and toxics and compliance and enforcement are on average around 10% of the district's total expenditures every year. The operations piece of this chart represents equipment maintenance costs, training, travel, and other costs associated with running these programs. With that, I'll pass the baton back over to Erin so she can discuss the district's goals for next fiscal year.
All right, we have just a few more slides, and I just wanted to highlight on what we've included in our proposed budget for our key goals, and these are in addition to carrying out our core responsibilities. 617 in the Community Air Protection Program continue to be a very high priority for our agency as well. In addition to community engagement, we're also working on the implementation of the best available retrofit control technology and our rule schedule that has all of those items to be completed by the end of 2023. That also has increased emission inventory reporting requirements, so we're working with those sources. So 617, as it is statewide, will continue to be a high priority for us. We're currently working with Matrix Consulting Group on a fee study. As we're doing a fee analysis, we're also looking at our long-range revenue and our workload associated with the anticipated revenue and evaluate modifications to the fee rule as well as to the agency structure. Efficiency measures, they've been extremely important for us. We've migrated a lot of our files to the cloud now, and we were very fortunate to be doing this during the onset of COVID that enabled us to work remotely. And it also has a lot for stability of the power grid. So if our server was down at our office here in Santa Barbara, we'd still have the ability to access all of our files and documents through the cloud if we're working at home. So that's been a huge benefit to us, and we'll continue to build off of that. We're also in the process of automating our permit application process and complaint process through online tools. We're working with Adobe Sign and getting very close. We have a deadline by the end of this fiscal year to begin actually implementing those tools. So that's not only a benefit for our staff and our operations, but it's also a benefit to everyone we serve. So it's a huge emphasis for the district, is all about efficiency. I mentioned the Santa Maria monitoring station that's getting very close to being up and running, but that will also house the community air monitoring equipment that's part of the AB 1647 bill associated with the refinery outside of Santa Maria. So that station is getting built out, not just to be one of our regular reference method monitoring stations, but also to incorporate different devices that can associate with the emissions coming from the refinery. We're doing a lot right now with attainment planning. We're going to be meeting in June with our Community Advisory Council on our Ozone Plan. We're scheduled to bring that to your board at the end of this calendar year. So that's going to take a lot of attention from the CAC, as well as PM10. We continue to be out of attainment for the state PM10 standards. So working to gather more information and having a better understanding of the exceedances and what we can do to reduce those. And then lastly, managing and overseeing the remodel of the McCoy office building. Tina's very fortunate to be able to have that one fall on her lap. So the next two slides, this is the building, and I showcased it when we closed escrow back in September of 2021. So this is what we have today. We've been working with architect Paul Moyer. He's here in Santa Barbara. He's been working with us and County General Services on remodeling and redesigning of this building. And we're currently working with the city of Santa Maria for a demolition permit and then going through the final design work and for their approval as well. So the next slide is a sneak peek of what we've been envisioning for this new location. We'll incorporate a lot of green building components. The use of natural light is a big aspect for us. There will be solar and battery backup incorporated into our redesign as well. The windows will open, so we'll be able to bring in the fresh air whenever it's we elect to, I guess. But I know fresh air has been extremely important with COVID and coming back from COVID as well. And in the front portion there, if you can see at the bottom right-hand side, to the left of the building, that's where the large conference room is located, which will be a perfect location for the CAC meeting or even for our public hearing board meetings or any workshops that we may have there. So it will house our motor pool. It's just going to be a great opportunity for the district to showcase green building practices and be visible for the public just in the community. Yesterday, just on a side note, we had a pickup event for the folks that were on the waiting list for Guadalupe, and we just set up a tent right to the side of the building. People were stopping by wanting to know who we are and what we were doing, and they were neighbors to us there on McCoy. So it's exciting to have the opportunity to establish a strong presence for the Air District in North County. And that concludes our presentation. We are available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, do board members have any questions or comments?
Director Infante has his hand raised.
Please go ahead, Director Infante.
Thank you, Chairman. A very good report. I really like this. I was fascinated a little bit by the improvement of the district efficiency because that's something we're trying to do here in Solbank. I apologize. I probably should have my camera on. I was curious who I could speak to about the automated permit application system that you're instituting, and good, bad, indifferent comments about it so that selfishly I can take advantage of that.
You know, what we could do, I think would be a really good thing to bring back to the board is when we have the system fully functioning, we could definitely showcase that here at an upcoming meeting. It's using Adobe Sign, and we're working with our database developer to ensure that when the information is submitted to us, we'll be able to automatically pull that information out of the form and work it directly into our database, so there won't be the need for any manual data entry as we currently have now.
Outstanding. I'd love to see that. Thank you.
We'll do that.
No further hands up on Zoom.
And no one here in Santa Barbara? I had a couple of questions. The first is if you could explain in more detail the 3-year cycle. Is that simply an accounting strategy, or does that relate to incoming revenues and expenditures?
Sure, Director Hartman. So that actually ties back to our permitting and when certain sources had to be permitted. So there had been some spikes, I believe, in 2008. Don't know the history, and I can get with Dave Harris on the actual history, but it's all based on timing of when those permits were issued and then the 3-year cycle of when they're, again, need to be reevaluated and looked at. So if there's spikes initially, then when it comes back down. And
So it relates to revenue, it really does
it really
change.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And so we try to average it out every year. When we know that we're going to have a high year, we'll deposit some money. So we have a very healthy fund balance for this purpose, just so that we're covered and it levels every year.
Thank you.
If we were going to change that, it would mean changing every permit we have to balance it out. And then it's just a matter of time when new permits
yeah.
come in. So that's a system that's been able to work for the agency for a number of years.
Thank you for explaining that. I just was curious about the new grant, the $850,000 you said for small off-road equipment. Is that like ATVs or that law enforcement uses, or could you elaborate?
It's very similar to the landscape electrification program that we did earlier this year. Was it this year I think we did, or was it last year? Anyway, recently, the state has a special project that they set up. I think I reported it recently in a APCO. It was a prior meeting where the state adopted new regulations to reduce emissions from landscape equipment and even small backup generators. And with that rule, manufacturers will have to generate and sell in California zero emission technology only in the marketplace. But this is an opportunity to start transitioning over to that newer equipment before the actual due date. And I know, Director Nelson, when it came up, there was only a small amount of money that we had secured here for the project, and you commented, I believe, that there's a lot of small equipment out there. It's going to be very costly. So it was a positive notion that CARB earmarked all of the Carl Moyer State Reserve funds for this current year for that purpose. There was a call for applications across the districts, the 35 air districts, and as Tina mentioned, I believe it's because we've had the prior experience of running 2 of those pilot projects that we were able to secure a significant size when you compare the total amount that was available.
Director Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hartman. So for the small equipment, so that's weed eaters, lawnmowers, right? And so.
Yeah.
And the grants are only, at this point, only to the commercial?
You know, the guidelines are being updated by the state currently. I would have to get back to you if it's only for commercial or for everyone. They haven't been finalized yet.
Well, I do think it's probably wise to go for the commercial market first. I mean, they're the heavy utilizers and the ones out there, on the daily basis. But I do think that there's a lot of interest out there in the public. The products, I actually have all electric lawn equipment myself, and the batteries are getting better.
Good for you.
Yeah. Hey, when the stuff works, I'll buy it. So, and it does work. And so I buy that at Oak Knoll Hardware in Orchid. Just I got to make a plug there. The steel dealership there, Ben Honeycutt, a veteran. I'm a big fan of some of these products that are out there, and I think this is really innovative, and I think it's something that if these dollars are coming into our county or into our state, let's get them out there. Let's make sure that we're advertising that and helping people.
Seeing no more lights here, is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Chair Hartman, we did not receive any public comments.
So we need a motion and a second. Is the motion to receive the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022-23, and we've held the public hearing, is this, and then we schedule the adoption hearing for June 16, 2022? So may I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Second.
And Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Director Lavanino?
Aye.
Director Sierra?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Julian?
Aye.
Director Osborne?
Aye.
Director Infante?
Aye.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Waterfield?
Aye.
Director Rouse?
Aye.
And Chair Hartman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Madam Clerk, would you read I-2 into the record, please?
Certainly. Discussion item I2, update on vessel speed reduction program. Receive and file an update on the 2021 Vessel Speed Reduction Incentive Program and future activities related to large ocean-going vessels.
Today, Molly Pearson, the Planning Division Manager, will provide a presentation on this program.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hartman and board members. I'm providing a review of the 2021 Blue Whales, Blue Skies Voluntary Vessel Speed Reduction Program. I have 13 slides. They should take about 10 minutes. So for background, this is a completely voluntary program that relies on the value of recognition and awards to incentivize participation. With over 100 miles of coastline and thousands of vessel transits in the region each year, this program greatly reduces onshore impacts from the marine shipping sector. The district's 2019 Ozone Plan includes an emission inventory for marine shipping and a commitment to continue a vessel speed reduction, or VSR, incentive program to reduce ozone precursor emissions. Santa Barbara County is currently considered non-attainment for the state ozone standard. The pie chart on the right, as you can see in blue, the whole chart is an updated emission inventory for the whole county of Santa Barbara. The marine shipping sector is represented in blue, and that's 42% of the ozone precursor pollutants in our inventory. So reducing vessel speeds brings about immediate air quality benefits because these vessels operate much more efficiently and pollute less at lower speeds. The program is an important way to achieve the near-term reductions in emissions of nitrogen oxides, or NOx. Although there are future regulations requiring cleaner engines, the existing fleet has dirtier engines that may not be replaced for 10 or 20 years. And in the meantime, lots of air agencies in California need to plan for the attainment of the state and federal ozone standards. The program is a partnership for cleaner air, safer whales, and a quieter ocean. And it involves numerous partners, including air districts, national marine sanctuaries, nonprofits, and foundations. And in 2014, we started with a pilot program, and each year the program has grown. We offer incentives in two forms, both recognition and also different levels of monetary awards. We're seeing that the recognition aspect of the program is really key. And as far as benefits, the program is focused for us on NOx reductions, but other air quality benefits also include reducing particulate matter, greenhouse gases, and air toxics. There are also multiple marine benefits, including whale protection and reducing ocean noise. Here are the partner logos with the participating air districts of Ventura, Santa Barbara, and the Bay Area up at the top. And as you can see, this is a very large group of people or organizations with different areas of expertise. And the logo in the center is really the unifying logo for this whole effort, with both clean air and whale protection benefits highlighted. So for 2021, our program operated in two different vessel speed reduction zones. These images show the two zones, which were the same as the zones in 2020. The left image shows the Southern California region, where ships are accessing the ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Hueneme, and they're also traveling north to the San Francisco Bay region. The image on the right shows the San Francisco Bay region, where ships access the ports of Benicia and Oakland through the San Francisco Bay. Green denotes the areas where ships were asked to slow down to 10 knots or less during the 2021 VSR season. So when we enroll companies in the program, we also ask them not to speed up between the Southern California and the Bay Area zones to make up time because they slowed down in the VSR zones. We do this to avoid any unintended disbenefits to air quality or whales. As far as the program criteria, in 2021, it was from May to November, and it coincides, that time period coincides with high ozone levels and the presence of whales. So we've again focused on container and car carrier vessels because they have the history of being the fastest vessels traveling through the VSR zones. And as a result, we gave financial awards between $5,000 and $50,000, depending on the award tier and the fleet size. There were 3 recognition levels, you can see here. They're based on the percent of distance traveled less than 10 knots. So this year we bumped the levels up, where sapphire means 85% or more of the miles traveled were slow speed. Gold is the 60 to 84% range, and the Blue Sky Award was for 35 to 59%. Program results. Here they are for 2021. We had 18 companies participate with a combined total of 545 vessels. 15 awards were allocated to fleets in 3 different size categories. In all, they represent a large portion of the container ships and car carriers that operate in these VSR zones. 2 shippers achieved the highest sapphire tier. Even though we raised the bar in 2021, most of the companies were able to travel more than 50% of their miles in the VSR zones at 10 knots or less. And companies in the sapphire and gold tiers received the monetary awards. They will also receive physical awards later this year. Lots of recognition efforts are currently underway, including a news release and a fact sheet. We just issued those, as well as numerous advertisements and articles in trade and business publications. And same with the 2020 program, an in-person award ceremony is not planned for this year. For the last few years, we've asked companies whether they'd like to decline their financial award and reinvest it in the program. And you can see here the table on the left. The ones that are highlighted are actually the ones that the companies declined their incentive and actually donated it back to the program. So of the total incentive funds that we offered this year, 112,000 were accepted and $105,000 worth were declined, which is great news for us. The graphic on the right shows the 6 companies that generously declined their incentive payment so that it can be reinvested into future efforts. All right, although I'm not a whale expert, I'd like to briefly cover the whale benefits. This is a wonderful part of our program. The pictures show from left to right a blue, a humpback, and a fin whale. All 3 of these species are endangered, and they all live and feed in and around the VSR zones. Our partners at NOAA have a goal to reduce the risk of fatal ship strikes on endangered whales. Separating the ships from where the whales congregate helps to reduce the risk, but in places where they overlap, the whales and the ships, reducing ship speeds definitely reduces that risk. They also work to reduce ocean noise that can interfere with the whale communication. So this year, research organizations again quantified the benefits of the program on the whale protection side. Point Blue, Conservation Science Institute, estimated that the 2021 program resulted in a 50% reduction in the risk of a whale being fatally struck by a ship. And regarding ocean noise, the Scripps Whale Acoustics Lab estimated that the 2021 program reduced the amount of noise coming from these vessels by 5 decibels. So on the recognition side, in the second half of 2021, we redoubled our efforts to provide recognition to the participating companies. And we developed a year-long plan to raise awareness of the program and share timely information and updates. We were excited to develop and launch a brand new website called bluewhalesblueskies.org, which is a great resource for the shipping companies, the partner organizations, retail and manufacturing companies, and the public to understand our program and get involved. In the news section of the website, we compiled a campaign report, and it summarizes our recognition efforts in the fall of 2021. So the table on the right you see here shows the number of news stories, sponsored features, and advertisements, and we had a total of over 5 million in total impressions. That's media jargon for an opportunity to see the information. We plan to do something very similar this year to recognize the participants in the 2021 program. And earlier this year, another exciting initiative, we launched the Brand Ambassador Program, where companies commit to raising awareness of the program with the shipping companies that they use. 2 companies have signed on so far. As you can see their logos here, No Bad Goods and Summit Coffee Roasting Company. And we expect more to sign up. All right. Interagency work. So while we implement this voluntary program, we're also participating in discussions at the local, state, and federal level related to marine shipping emissions. We've had many discussions with the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, about the need to update their ocean-going vessel emission estimation methodology. And great news, in March of this year, they finalized a new methodology that yields much more accurate emissions estimates of the air pollutant emissions from this sector. The end result is that our new data set results in a big decrease in NOx emission estimates, which will be reflected in our upcoming Ozone Plan effort for 2022. That's currently under development. CARB also finalized their 2020 mobile source strategy in October of last year. This strategy document includes near-term emission reductions through requiring vessels visiting ports and, requiring cleaner vessels visiting ports, and long-term strategies such as stricter federal and international engine emission standards. CARB's draft state implementation plan also includes evaluating incentive or regulatory measures to reduce vessel speeds in California waters. The 2022 program launched on May 1st of this year. And so far, we have 24 shipping companies that are officially enrolled. A few of the changes we made this year are that the season was extended and it will run from May 1st to December 15th. We added bulk and general cargo vessels to the types of ships that are covered. And in the San Francisco Bay region, additional waters will be covered. As you can see in the map on the right, the waters of the Greater Farallon and Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuaries were added as shown in green. The budget includes, again, nearly $300,000 of incentive funding, and that comes from a CARB Supplemental Environmental Project, or SEP, that's managed by the Ventura Air District. The district also receives funding for staff time through this SEP. And we've requested additional SEP funding for future program implementation, but we haven't heard back yet on that. So that's about it on my presentation, and happy to take questions. Oh, also, I'm sorry to interrupt. Tim Mitro is our air quality engineer, and I believe he's on Zoom. He's more of a technical expert, and he can answer more technical questions.
That's really an extraordinary program. Do any directors have questions or comments?
Director Lavanino has his hand up.
Thank you. Question about two things. One, I really like this program, but obviously it's not the monetary incentive that's motivating these companies. It's the recognition that I'm sure that they get to send out to their stockholders and stakeholders. But it doesn't seem like, I mean, if it's 42% of our problem, I'm more interested in what's the long-term. You mentioned on there, I think in slide 10 or 11 about, I know these are hundreds of millions of dollars, these engines, so it's not like we just require people to replace them next week. But what is that legislation? What is the time frame where these high polluting engines need to be refurbished or replaced at the federal level?
Chair Hartman, Director Levin, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the ships, their keels were laid in 2016 is when the legislation kicked in, and a lot of vessels got built and keels were laid prior to that requirement. So it's a requirement for new vessels, but it's just going to take a long time for some of those vessels to need replacement and then come in with cleaner engines. So yeah, in the meantime, we need these nearer term. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but.
Yeah, no, you did. I guess, is it a new, I don't know how often, I would imagine those engines run for decades. So I'm just curious, is it the engine or is it the ship that has to be? I mean, if the ship needs new engines, I would imagine they'd have to follow the new legislation.
My impression is that the ships can run for a really long time, and the engines would probably be the first thing that would need replacement. Okay. But I mean, a lot of the ship design is changing. Ships are getting bigger. I wish I had a better understanding of the industry. I don't know if Tim has any better understanding of that, but he's also available.
All right. Can we hear me now? Yes. So Tim Mitro, air quality engineer with the district. So a lot of these ships do last for about 20 or 25 years in service. So the California Air Resources Board isn't anticipating a lot of the new Tier 3 engines to be used in California waters until about the year 2035. So that's where we have all these ships that were manufactured after 2016 and so forth. They would start to be predominantly used in the 2035 timeframe.
Does that do it, Director Lavanino?
It does. Thank you very much.
Director Rouse?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I noticed we didn't talk much about fuel, but along with the slower speeds, are there fuel mixed requirements? We have certain protocols with the cruise ships that they do follow, and I didn't know if that was the same on, those are usually newer vessels than a lot of the freighters we're talking about. Was there anything about fuel that's different required as far as being within proximity of the Santa Barbara waters?
I'll take that question first. Yes, they're all required to have low sulfur fuel, the cruise ships and the ocean-going vessels, as long as they're within, well, there's federal requirements for within 100 miles of shore, and then there's state requirements within 24. I believe they're all kind of in concert with each other now, and they all agree. But yes, the low sulfur fuel is a requirement of all of these vessels.
Because, anecdotally, I cross the channel a lot, and anecdotally, I notice a lot less freighter traffic, which is great. It's weird to pace when you're crossing back and forth because they're going half the speed they used to. But there must be a tremendous amount of traffic in the outer waters then to replace that traffic in the inner waters. Do you know any statistics about how much more traffic is in the outer waters and the percentage that choose to take the longer route?
Chair Hartman and Director Rouse, I can say that it does vary year to year. It's hard to say what the shipping companies are going to decide to do as far as their routes, but yes, sometimes they go outside of the channel, sometimes they go inside the channel, and especially when the fuel rule wasn't came into play and only applied in the channel, a lot of people did go outside the channel. I don't know that in more recent years that I don't think it's affected the routing so much.
Because the fuel mix has remained the same as long as they're within 100 miles of the coastline?
Yes, now they're under an IMO emission control area where it requires low sulfur fuel even out in the further out areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Hartman, we did not receive any public comment.
Any final opportunities to talk that the board would like to take? So this is a receive and file, so we don't need to vote. And Madam Clerk, would you make your final announcement?
This meeting will be rebroadcast on Sunday, May 22nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. on County of Santa Barbara TV channel 20.
So this meeting is adjourned. We meet next June 16th, 2022.